Today we are driving the 2019 BMW X7 XDrive50i. Does this used model drive as well as the new one? Let's go ahead and find out. As always, I will be giving you a brief tour of the car before I get it out on the road. We have a key fob, which is not available as an option, but you can get it as an aftermarket accessory. The front end looks a lot better than the new one, although you still have a giant grille that can be blacked out. There's a BMW badge and these fully LED headlights and fog lights down below. There's also a lot of functionality for M Sport duty. You have these 22-inch alloy wheels with blue brake calipers because we have the M Sport package, and you get this blacked out trim down below. There's more blacked out trim surrounding the windows, and stepping back to look at the profile, I can't say I love it, but it is more conservative than something like a Cadillac Escalade. I mean, it isn't as long and it doesn't look as awkward. In the back, you'll find these wider tires, and around the back end, you'll find a very interesting design. This is kind of like a classic BMW, and the clamshell opening tailgate is also classic BMW. This is only on the X5 and X7, and I think it is so worth it. You can sit down on it, and it can keep things like these floor mats inside. There are power seats for the second and third row, but with the captain's chairs, the second row can't fold flat. That is kind of disappointing, but some people might not be hauling things in their BMW X7. Everything closes right up with the push of a button. But let's move on to the rear seats because this is the only BMW with a third row. We have the 6-seat configuration, meaning that we have captain's chairs in the second row. There are a lot of bougie features back here, including the option to make everything leather, but we do have some plastics, metal speaker grills, glossy wood trim, and some leather on the armrest. The X7 has these power sunshades, which is surprisingly rare for the class. You don't even get it on the Cadillac Escalade, and the Mercedes GLS makes you pay for them. There are these switches to power fold up or fold down the third row from the back seats. Inside the third row, there are a lot of nice surprises. There's leather everywhere, you get ambient lighting, glossy wood trim, USB-C ports on both sides, and you can controls to open the sunroof. You can't actually open the glass, but there is a power sunshade. Now you also get a 5th zone climate control, which is actually pretty rare for this class, and heated seats. There are a lot of nice surprises in the third row, except for the amount of room, which is actually not that good for the class. Now let's talk about the second row because this is really bougie for the price. You get standard power seats, which is actually unavailable on the Cadillac Escalade and Lincoln Navigator, and there isn't as much room as those two, but it's still pretty good. These seats are super comfortable, and while they don't have ventilation, they're still very nice for the winter with the heating. Also, you get these pillows on the headrest, which is super bougie. You get storage space, 2 cup holders, a 4-cylinder climate control, and like I just said, no ventilated seats on any model. The large panoramic sunroof lets in plenty of light, and overall, this is a really nice place to be. If you can't afford that Rolls-Royce Cullinan, you'd be perfectly happy, and of course, there is the classic soft close. Let's check out the front area and see how bougie it is up here. The door panel is really nice. You get basically the same materials, but you can control the rear seats from here. Also, there are all your window controls, and of course, you get a lot of storage down below. There are these 20-way adjusting seats made in merino leather, and these are so comfortable. They cradle your body nicely, and you can adjust it to however you want. The seat adjustments are kind of confusing because they're not on the door like Mercedes does, but overall, it's still fine once you get used to it. Let's fire it up. There's a full digital gauge cluster, this 12.3-inch infotainment system that works completely fine, and the nice thing is that you get physical buttons unlike the 2025 model. You can control the heated and ventilated seats from here, and you also get a seat massage. You get your climate controls and physical buttons, and you can control everything from the AC, the modes, and the rear defrost. You also have all of your radio buttons right here, which is something that will be missed on all of the new BMW models, and you get heated and cooled cup holders. What a nice surprise. All of your controls will be finished in glass because that is an extra package. You do have to pay extra for it, but it looks so good, and I definitely think it is worth it. There are a ton of different angles for whatever you need to do, like parking or towing, and there's even a 3D view and a car wash mode. This makes parking this large SUV so much easier. Overall, the infotainment system is really nice, and if you want physical buttons, this might be the way to go. The only cars that have it would be the 2024 X3 and the newest BMW 8 Series. If you don't want that kind of stuff, then you should get this X7 as a used car. Enough talking about that, let's get this BMW X7 out for a drive. We are finally behind the wheel of a BMW. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and believe me, I'm going to have a lot of BMW reviews coming up very soon. As for this X7, it drives very nicely even with 70,000 miles on this particular car. You barely feel the road bumps, and this air suspension is doing such a nice job of keeping all of the harshness out. And yes, even with these 22-inch alloy wheels, this is still a very comfortable riding car with the adaptive dampers and the air suspension. I haven't been in much of this X7's competition like the Mercedes GLS or Cadillac Escalade, but I have been in the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and while that was a pretty comfortable ride, it had a solid rear axle, so the ride was a little bit more busy than this unibody X7. The Mercedes GLS and this BMW X7 are the only cars in this class that have a unibody design. The other ones like the Cadillac Escalade, Lincoln Navigator, and like I just mentioned, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, they will have the solid rear axle, so the ride is going to be a little bit less pleasant. We will come back to ride quality in a second, but for now let's talk about the powertrain. We have the XDrive50i today, so that means we have a 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8. This makes 456 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. All of this is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and as you would expect, fuel economy is not great. You get 15 miles per gallon in the city, 21 on the highway, and 17 combined. While that is better than most of the competition, that is definitely not going to be amazing fuel economy, so just keep that in mind. Of course, a little bit later in the video, we will be putting the V8 to the test by flooring it up the hill. But as for now, let's continue our conversation about the ride quality. We are about to go over a very bumpy road surface, which is a great way to test out the X7's ride quality. I have to say, going over all of these bumps here, the X7 is the smoothest car that we've had on the channel. Of course, not every vehicle that I review goes on this bumpy strip of road, but from all of the cars from the Audi dealership, including this X7, this one is the best riding out of them all, and I can still tell from the smooth road surface with the other cars too. So this X7, I have to say, is probably the best riding car I've had on this channel, and with all of the other Audis that have been on here, the A6, the Q7, the Q8, this X7 definitely outperforms them when it comes to ride quality and ride comfort. So if you're cross-shopping with other vehicles, let's say a Cadillac Escalade or Lincoln Navigator, this X7 is most likely going to outperform them with the unibody body structure. One thing though, I have never been in a Mercedes GLS, and I'm assuming that is also pretty smooth. So if you guys have been in both in a Mercedes GLS and a BMW X7, be sure to let me know which one is smoother, because I'm really curious to find that out. But let's go ahead and talk about wind noise. There's going to be extra wind noise in the cabin because we have the windows down, but when I was reviewing it, there was a loud plane going over my head, and when I closed the door, the noise went away immediately. So I have to say that it is pretty quiet inside the cabin, and of course if you have the windows open, that is definitely going to affect it as usual. And this is actually not a big box hurtling through the air like the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. That thing is huge, and I think that would actually impact the aerodynamics of a car if it's a big box. So wind noise in this X7 is pretty good, and according to carconfections.com, the X7 is the class leader when it comes to the cabin volume. But now let's talk about this 8-speed automatic transmission, because in typical BMW fashion, this is more oriented towards performance than luxury. This is an extremely responsive and quick to shift transmission, and if you're taking corners aggressively or if you have to accelerate really quickly, I don't think you'll have a hard time doing that with this transmission. Of course, there are metal pedals on the back of the steering wheel if you really want to shift manually, but I don't think people in an X7 will be doing that. Maybe buy an X5M competition if you want to do something like that. So I think this transmission is very fitting of a BMW product, and of course it is CF sourced. But let's go ahead and do an acceleration clip up the hill. That was some pretty impressive acceleration from a full-size luxury SUV. That is probably going to blow away most of the competitors. I know the Jeep Grand Wagoneer with 510 horsepower is pretty quick on its feet, but I don't know, that was some pretty insane acceleration from a full-size luxury SUV. Definitely faster than any powertrain in the Mercedes GLS. Of course, you can work yourself up the line with that. And I have to say that the power was present. You could feel the extra torque there over the V6, going down the hill, making that yellow light. So, very impressed by this powertrain. It's not the fastest vehicle I've tested on this channel, but it is still not slow. And considering that this car is also pretty heavy, about 5,000 pounds, I'm very impressed. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.